All right. We are officially live, kind of. How you doing? Now, I am trying to figure a few things out because this is my first live stream, and supposedly, hold on. Supposedly, I set up for a time, but for some reason that doesn't go to the live streaming one that I set up using the software I use. So I don't know if anybody's getting anything out of this, or if it's it's not coming through on the ones that I had set up. So I don't know. So I think I'm going to just do it like this from here on in. See what happens. I'm going to wait and see if we get a few folks coming in before I start. I do not show any participants yet, so I don't know. What's the Haps AdventureFam? My name is Jack, and this here is 100% Adventure. 100% Adventure, you ask. What is 100% Adventure? Well, let me tell you, it actually has no definition. 100% Adventure is going to be a basically an everything program. Tonight's first episode, I'll be talking about me, pretty much, because I'm kind of getting used to this, and this is my first real live stream. So I'm going to see if we've got any people coming in. I'm going to share this on Facebook and Twitter so that we get hopefully some viewers. And boom. And Twitter. Let's see what we can do. All right. So, here we sit. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Jack. I'm pretty much known as being that guy over there, Action Jason, or over here, Action Jason, cosplay. I do Action Jason cosplay. Action Jason cosplay, for those of you who are new to the program, like myself, is what I call a crossplay character. He is a cross between Action Jackson, which was a figure or a doll line for boys when I was growing up, by Mego, and Action Jackson was kind of like a everyday hero, everywhere hero. Let's see. Basically, he was like a Barbie for boys. He had all different kinds of costumes, and he could be a Navy SEAL, he could be a astronaut, he could be whatever. They had all kinds of different little adventures. Snowshoer, camper. But basically, that was the whole thing. You'd buy the figure, the doll, and then you would eventually get like these different costumes for him to play in. And so at one point I had made an Action Jackson cosplay, and I was going to just do Action Jackson. But then I ran across my mask, my Jason mask, and I'm like, oh, well, Jason starts with a J, so I'll do Action Jason. And then it came into this whole concept in my head of how Jason would be if he was Action Jackson. So he's 50% Action Jackson, 50% Jason Voorhees, 100% adventure. And that's how he came to be. The concept, of course, is that being a cross-play, as I like to call him, is that he will constantly do different things. Like I have Vacation Jason, which is a Hawaiian shirt and a lei and a bucket hat, shorts and a Jaws t-shirt, stuff like that. And then there's, the backups for that are Pirate Jason. There's Stone Cold Jason Voorhees, or Stone Cold Action Jackson Jason, Action Jason, which is a take on Stone Cold Steve Austin, obviously. While I was designing Jason, Action Jason, I was coming across different ideas of what to do, and kind of taking some of my old history of things that I've done in the past, and bringing them into what I'm doing. For instance, okay, so a little bit about me. My name is Jack. I said that earlier. I'm better known as Action Jason. I'm also known as a real-life superhero known as Razorhawk. I operated as a superhero for 11 years, doing safety patrols, crime patrols, and also creating the Hope Force, which is a, hey, Wolf, welcome aboard, buddy. Good to see you. Hereish. Feel free to ask questions if you've got them. I will respond. Right now I'm just kind of going through a little bit about me. That's what this episode is going to be mostly about. A little bit about me, a little bit about AJ, and a little bit about what we hope to have as part of 100% adventure from here on forward. So I was just talking about the fact that AJ is a crossplay as Action Jackson and Jason Voorhees. And basically, that means that he can dress up like various other characters. That's why I've got Stone Cold Action Jason, which is Stone Cold Steve Austin. I've got Pirate Jason. I've got Vacation Jason. And, it all falls under the same Action Jason concept. Once I got into that, my mind started working on other things, and I came up with different ideas of what to do with them. And currently I am a college student. I'm old, but I am a college student. I'm going to school for graphic design. A little bit about me there. One of my classes was a class called How to Make Almost Anything, which revolved around working with 3D printing, 3D modeling, also with woodworking, laser cutting. And we had to come up with different things that we could do that were unique. So I thought, I'm doing Action Jason. I want to do something, for my final project based on Jason. So I designed a belt, a wrestling belt, and learned how to work with leather and work with the laser cutter to cut the laser cut the belt out of leather, and then also to engrave and cut the plates, with the logos on the front, out of acrylics. Pardon me. So then that turned into a whole thing, and I started, coming up with concepts, and I started the Action Jason Wrestling Federation as one of the things I do. So I came up with all different kinds of things, and then I found on eBay one night, I was looking at G.I. Joe figures because I collect old toys from when I was a kid back in the 80s. And while I was looking up G.I. Joe figures and G.I. Joe vehicles and stuff, I had found somebody had made a custom G.I. Joe of Jason from the second movie with the white sack over his head. And they made him part of the G.I. Joe team. They did the backing board, G.I. Joe, Special Agent, Jason Voorhees, whatever, or Camp Blood Killer or something. I can't remember what they called him. If they used, his real name, his actual name, or if they used the Camp Blood Killer name. And I got to thinking that was kind of fun. So I was going to make my own G.I. Joe. Because, like I said, I was in graphic design class. And at the time, while I was in graphic design class, we were working on packaging design and marketing and merchandising. And I thought, well, I'll make a G.I. Joe Action Jason. I came up with packaging and stuff for that. And it was pretty cool. But then I was like, yeah, it's just not me, just to be G.I. Joe. I thought, I got to take it a little different, a little out of that pattern of just being a G.I. Joe. So then I did like a ripoff. I call it an homage. An homage to G.I. Joe, and created a team for Action Jason, and created the AJ Corpse, which is like corpse, but spelled Korpse, so it's corpse. And then I started building up a mythology around it, and story and packaging, and then took some existing G.I. Joe vehicles and remodeled them to be for the AJ Corpse. So that was kind of fun. That was a little different, and went my own way with it, and set up a specific kind of design for the vehicles, and a history to the character being working for the U.S. government as the leader of the AJ Corps. And the AJ Corps, the first wave of the AJ Corps was the Scare Crew, which was comprised of characters from horror movies. So that's got Leatherface, Jigsaw, Captain Spaulding, Elvira, Alice from Resident Evil, Freddy Krueger, of course, Michael Myers, and all that. So then I, put together kind of the history of all of that. And I was like, well, I also have a wrestling background, and I got a lot of wrestling friends. And I thought, well, G.I. Joe's had different things. So they had, special forces, they had whatever, the different types of branches and stuff. So I went for coming up with other branches. So I came up with the Ring Warriors, which were wrestlers, and I did up, Blue Meanie, who's a friend of mine, Al Snow, who's also a friend of mine, because they're just so much fun, and I thought they'd be really funny to have in there. Then I added a third unit, which I can't for the life of me remember what I call it, because I didn't do a lot with it. But it was using characters from like Flash and TV shows like that. And so I did a Ricardo Diaz from Arrow. And I talked to the actor who plays Ricardo Diaz on Twitter all the time, and I showed him the finished product, and he thought it was pretty cool, So I did him. I did Captain Cold, and I did a couple of those, and that was fun. So that's pretty much brings you up to speed on Action Jason. I don't know if Wolf is the only one here, but if anybody else is here, please feel free. Over there, there's a comment section, and I will respond if you ask a question. Otherwise, I'll just talk more about myself until I can start talking about what the future of this broadcast will bring. So a little bit more about myself. I said I was a real-life superhero. I operated for 11 years, starting in, I believe it was like 2008. Started out not being a part of the group. For those who don't know what a real-life superhero is it's a person who takes on a personality or persona of a superhero and goes out and does good deeds in their communities. A lot of the good deeds are involved with crime prevention, crime awareness, awareness of different types of causes, safety patrols, so on and so forth. That's good. For whoever else is watching, hello, I'm Jack. If you're a little bit late, I go by Action Jason here. That's my cosplay, and I was talking a little bit about that. Well, now I'm talking a little bit about my background, being a real-life superhero. Like I said, I operated as Razorhawk, appeared on Stan Lee's Academy of Heroes back in 2013. So that's a way you can find out more about Razorhawk. Basically, I did crime patrols, I did safety patrols, and then I created the United Earth Hope Force, which is a homeless outreach group that started in San Diego during Comic-Con doing homeless outreach, as a large group of real-life superheroes would get together and, help people out. And we'd have roughly anywhere from 30 to 60 of us from across the country, and from other, had some people from Canada that operate as real-life superheroes, and we did that. And then we expanded. We've done Chicago. We've had events down in Florida, Portland, England. I mean, we've done it pretty much all over the world. And I don't talk too much about it, because I don't like to, take advantage of what we did. So, but I wanted it out there. So if anybody ever has questions about real life superheroes or that kind of thing, or doing charity work, feel free to ask over there in the comments. Spent 16 years as a professional wrestler. Started out in 1990, working out of Minneapolis, a place called the Western Wrestling Association. Sorry. Um, and that was fun, met a lot of good people there. Worked with Buck Zumhoff, if you know who he is. My first match in front of a crowd was with him. I really enjoyed it. Had a good time. Met a lot of good people. Met my wife there. And then, I did that for a while with them. And then we started our own group called the Twin Cities Wrestling Alliance. And we wrestled with our own group for quite some time. I had a lot of good guys working in the TCWA. It was a blast, good time. I miss it every day. If I could jump in the ring right now, even with as sore as I've been today, I would do it. Let's see. So what else do I do? Well, I'm a graphic designer. I was kind of starting when I was talking about the real life superhero thing. I didn't start out to be a real life superhero. I started out getting involved with it because I just thought it was interesting. And I was a seamster making costumes. So I started a business called Hero Gear and would make costumes for a lot of these guys. And then after a while, I got tired of just designing stuff and making stuff and, doing research for other real life superheroes. So I finally decided to get in the game and do it myself. Like I said, I've done that for 11 years. So I've been running Hero Gear since 2006. And it's been fun. It's gone through a lot of changes. Currently, I've remarketed or rebranded as I'm getting closer to graduating from school in graphic design. I waited this long to get schooling in something I'd been doing for a long time. But yeah, I felt I needed to get, a piece of paper to say that I knew what I was doing. But now currently I've branded as Jack's Hero Wears. And I do a lot of work in different things. I do graphic design, I do logo design, I do cartooning, I do painting, digital paintings, physical paintings, and acrylics. I'm a model builder. I like to write things. I like to act. I like to do that kind of stuff. Gosh, I don't know why I've got such a cough tonight. But I work with leather, I work with metal, and I work with wood. So I do all kinds of different things. And currently, the top thing on my plate right now is I'm really enjoying working on cartooning. It's a tool that I didn't really have before. So I'm trying to grasp it and go with it and have a good time with it and learn some stuff and expand my abilities. So to that end, I do, commissions. Wolf, since you're the only one that's been commenting, you can hear me okay over here? Because I'm not sure. I did have my headphones on earlier and it sounded clearer on this end, but I'm also on a 10-second delay, so so it kind of gets kind of weird when I go between the StreamYard where I'm broadcasting from and back to YouTube right here. When I'm watching me broadcasting on StreamYard, it's real time. Sound is great. Good. So that's a little bit about me. It's been about a half hour worth of talking about me, and I just, for this first episode, I decided I was going to talk primarily about introducing myself to hopefully a group of people. If you are here and you don't subscribe already, please, click on the subscribe button below. Give it a thumbs up if you like it. Share it with your friends. I'd appreciate that. I'm going to be doing these every Monday night, this time, which is 9 o'clock Central Time, so it's 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Pacific. What we will attempt to do in the future is I have a lot of varied interests, as you could tell from my background of wrestling and superheroing and costuming and cosplaying and you name it. I've done pretty much everything except competition figure skating. I've been a furniture mover. I've worked in, retail. I've worked in garages. I've done all kinds of odd jobs over the years. Did customer service over the phone. So all kinds of stuff. So I've got a lot of different levels of interest and different levels of knowledge. The things that I am most active in, obviously, there's going to be superheroes and graphic design, and making things just in general. So leather work, woodwork, metal work, stuff like that I'm very fascinated in. And I really like doing it. And hopefully I'll be sharing some of that stuff with people on here. The other thing I do is I've done some paranormal investigations, and I enjoy that. That's a big interest of mine, has been for a long time, as far back as I can remember. I think I got turned on to the paranormal when I was a kid. I think when I was about 6 or 7 years old, I had my first paranormal experience. And then shortly after that, I got hooked on Leonard Nimoy's In Search Of, and found out about things outside of ghosts, and found out about UFOs and Bigfoots and you name it. And I found that very fascinating. Oh, it froze for a few seconds when you were sharing the link. Weird. So I've got, like I said, I've been wrestled for 16 years. I have a son who is 21, going to college, who hopefully one day wants to wrestle himself. I do have 3 kids total, and they're all active in making different things. One that streams video games, a couple that do sewing, so on and so forth. So I can talk about pretty much anything. I like to say that my concept for 100% Adventure is to talk about one subject per show, which is the intent for the future. It's really kind of awkward doing this first show because I can't just jump in and start talking about a subject. And it also is kind of hard when, there's not a lot of people watching and interacting with, comments and asking questions. But I'm more than happy to answer questions and start a discussion. I see there's 2 watching now, which is me and Wolf. So I don't know that there's anybody else watching. So I don't know. We can talk paranormal, we can talk conspiracy theories, we can talk, art, we can talk movies. I'm a big movie fan. Primarily, I like sci-fi or comedy. I do like action movies, so we can talk action movies. We can talk sci-fi. I've been a comic book reader since I was about as far back as I can remember. When I started reading comic books were 15 cents cover price. So it's been a long time. uh, Comic books, I've always been a Batman fan. Um, he was the first, he and Spider-Man were the first two characters I was introduced to as a child. And they're two of my favorites because they've always been there. I'm not an expert on comic books. I'm not an expert on, you come up to me, oh, you remember so-and-so did the cover of this? No, I don't. Sometimes I remember covers and I'll be like, oh, I really love this cover. Or I know there are certain artists that I'm a huge fan of. But I couldn't tell you their, what do you call it? I don't even know what you'd call it. Their history off the top of my head. But Neil Adams is a big one for me. I grew up, like I said, reading Batman, and his Batman to me is the best. The physical look to him. I always loved not only his interiors but his covers. Spider-Man. Want to rewatch Who Wants to Be a Superhero? I know a few people that were on Who Wants to Be a Superhero. I tried out for the first season. I don't tell that very often, but I did. And I think that was before I started doing RLSH, before I started doing real life superhero. I was helping out, but I thought, I want to, I'd like to be a superhero, but this sounds like fun. It was a chance to meet Stan Lee, obviously, which I eventually did, being a real life superhero. The HBO doc, I'm in it for blink and you miss it. Me and Geist are in the opening credits because Peter Tengen was filming us in Minneapolis on one of our patrols, and so there's a little blink and you miss it in the opening credits of us standing under a train bridge as a train goes by. It was kind of interesting. So yeah, I mean, okay, so we're on that subject. So we're here, and I've still got 28 minutes left of the show. So I guess, yeah, we'll be talking about all this stuff. So we'll talk a little bit about the HBO documentary. The HBO documentary was amazing. It was very well produced. Michael and TJ and all those guys that put it together were fantastic people. I adore them. Here's a story about that, because showed on HBO. Dusk was watching it and live streaming it in his TC room, and we all watched it. Yeah, that's Dusk for you. He's been missing in action a lot lately, getting banned off of Facebook. But yeah, back to that was literally the first year of Hope, was when the documentary came out. The year previous to the HBO doc coming out, I was out in San Diego for Comic-Con. I went every year with my family. And Peter Tengen was out there, and he's like, oh, Jack, we're doing this thing at a place called, what was the place called? It's not Acoustic, Analog. It was a club called Analog in downtown San Diego. I don't think it's there anymore. And Peter Tengen, for those who don't know, is a photographer. You know him without knowing him. You've seen his work. I guarantee it. He's done the movie posters like Spider-Man and the original Tobey Spider-Man movies. He's done all kinds. Don't mind me messing with the mic too, because I'm just trying to get it used to it. This is the first time I've used this mic, and so it's kind of different. So anyhow, he's like, yeah, we're trying to do this superhero project. And originally I felt bad because he had invited a bunch of real life superheroes out to San Diego to do a video shoot or a photo shoot where he would take them and use his abilities and his connections to make, really nice posters of these guys, and I really wanted to go, and I really wanted to meet people like Superhero, and Zeta Man, and, all these people that I'd known online, but I'd never physically gotten to work with. So fast forward, this is 2010 now. I think that was done in 2008 or 2009, the superhero photo shoot. So 2010, he's like, oh, well, since you're going to be out here in San Diego, why don't you come over to Analog? We're going to do this thing, and we're going to try to raise some money for the superhero project. And we're going to have a few of you guys hanging out undercover, in your secret identities in front of all these people. And we're going to see if anybody can guess who the real life superheroes are in the room. Now, of course, we get there, and I've not met any of the other guys yet, just talked online. I think that was the first time I met everybody that I met that day. Urban Avenger, Mr. Extreme. I had met Mr. Mixstream. Mr. Extreme I met at Comic-Con either earlier that time or the year before, because he used to go out to Comic-Con and pass out flyers to try to get people to join the Extreme Justice League. And I saw him and went up and talked to him one time. And because I'd made him a mask and stuff. And so he was there. Urban, Vigilante Spider, my brother Thanatos, the greatest of us all, was there. Funny story about that, because we were all in civilian clothes. We'd never seen each other without masks or anything. And everybody had seen me without a mask, because before I was this guy right here who was making costumes. So people knew who I was. But I was walking down the street towards Analog, and this older guy kind of looked at me kind of weird, and I'm like, oh my God, that's Thanatos. And I'm like, no. Yeah, it's got to be no. So anyhow, I get up there because I didn't think Thanatos was going to come out for this, because he's from, Vancouver, British Columbia in Canada. Now, he was inspirational to me. And those who have met him, those who have known him, those who have followed him, he has inspired a lot of people to do good deeds. One of the chillest guys you'll ever meet. And so I go in and, to the club, and had to sneak by Seth Green. Yeah, that's who it was. Seth Green and Claire Grant were going in as I was going in. Seth is very tiny. And I saw Mr. Extreme, and I recognized him. It was really weird, because I think I pretty much recognized everybody when I saw them without their masks. So we all sat down at a table together, and I think it was Vigilante Spider said, oh, did Peter give you your surprise yet? And I'm like, no, I haven't gotten a surprise yet. He's like, oh, well, there's a surprise for you. And I'm like, Thanatos is standing behind me, isn't he? And they're like, they laughed, because they had met Thanatos earlier, so they knew it was him. But they were going to surprise me by meeting him, And I'm like, he's standing behind me, isn't he? And they're like, oh, I don't know. So I stood up and turned around, and here was the older guy that I'd seen on the street. And so I was right. It was Thanatos. And, I gave him a big hug. And Thanatos is a very, as I said, he's an older gentleman, and he's very small compared to me. I'm 6'2 3/4". At the time, I was probably around 260 pounds. Like I said, I wrestled for a long time. And so I was still kind of wrestling shape back then. And so, yeah, we spent the night doing this stuff. And then afterwards, we had our gear with us because they wanted us to switch into our gear at some point, and meet people and shake hands and talk to people and answer questions. And so we did. And Mr. Extreme's like, hey, we're going to go out and do homeless outreach tonight. Do you want to come with us? And I'm like, well, sure. We'd done, small scale homeless outreach back here in Minnesota. Never done it out there at this point. And it's a whole different world out there. There's so many more people living on the streets than there are here. And even at that, the people that are living on the streets here really hide. The people out there are, a block long full of tents. And we didn't have that here in Minnesota till just the last maybe 5 years, where we've had a couple of encampments show up. I mean, we'd had other encampments. I shouldn't say that we hadn't, but they weren't as prevalent or in the public view until the last 5 years. And then it just really skyrocketed here. But back then, so, we went through the whole day, and they're like, oh, well, we're going to go out and do outreach tomorrow. Do you want to come with us? Which was Saturday morning. And I'm like, yeah. So we went out, and, I remember talking to Thanatos after we were done, and he was getting ready to fly back to Canada. And it got really emotional. And, I think we both had a little bit of a tear. And it was like, we got to do this again, next year. So I set it up, and I called it Hope, and I said, we're going to do this. Well, in the meantime, the documentary was coming out on, got sold to HBO. So the first year of Hope was the HBO documentary was coming out. So, Superhero came out. And Superhero, for those who don't know, was one of the larger than life one of us. And also somebody who meant an awful lot to me. He passed away back in August or July. And so we got to meet for the first time. And it all had wrapped around during the day we were doing stuff for the documentary. They played it at Comic-Con. So we went to Comic-Con in gear, and we watched it. And we posed for pictures, and we shook hands, and we talked to people and answered questions. That was great. There was about maybe 50 of us, 40 or 50. There was a lot of us there. Could have been, I think, I think back, I think we had about 37. So that's a lot of people in costume that were going out doing good deeds. And the following day was going to be our outreach. So they took us out, and they brought us up to the Hard Rock Cafe. They had a after party. They had this big party with all of us getting a chance to kind of sit down and enjoy each other's company and talk about things. And oh God, what's her name? Deborah Ann Wall was there, and her then boyfriend. I think they're married now. And he was just nuts over us. He he came and took pictures with all of us and told us he was really excited about what we did. And it was a great time. And then the next day we got up early in the morning and we went out on the streets and we passed out, God, I think 1,000 or 1,200 bags of food and supplies to people on the streets. And food, we had a big food truck. We had a trailer full of sleeping bags that we were passing out. And I don't like to talk too much. It's just a good memory for me. I kind of miss it because I'll never get to see Superhero again. And that was the one time that I got to meet him and work with him. Yeah. But it was a good time. But since that was basically the thing we're talking about, I haven't had any other questions or anything. But yeah, that's how the documentary went. It came out on HBO. We'd get a lot of calls from people and producers and stuff after that, trying to make reality shows. My team had worked on a reality show that was going to be on G4, and we went through the whole rigmarole and was all ready to go. And then G4 restructured and got rid of all their programming. And so we ended up not doing it. But then the Stan Lee Academy of Heroes came along, and I did that, and I'm glad I did because I got to work with Stan Lee for a weekend. Got to work with a bunch of our LSHs that I hadn't worked with in the past. Some I had, but some I hadn't. So it was a great time to meet everybody. We did some homeless outreach during that as well. And then the following weekend after that, we were down in San Diego for the Third Hope. I think it was the Third Hope in San Diego at that time. And so, yeah, it was for a few years there, we were just really busy with the real life superhero thing. And, I'm not ashamed of it. I don't feel like I have to not talk about it, but I also feel like I don't want to toot my own horn for doing something that I did technically under a mask, because I just wanted to do it. It wasn't a matter of, oh, well, I want to, do it this way. It's just, it was the way it had to be. I don't know how to explain it. You don't just do it as an RLSH just because you want to dress up. And, that part is fun. Having the persona is fun. But doing the job was because you had to do the job, man. You just had to do it. Nobody else was doing it, or very few people were doing it at that time. Now there's a lot more groups of people doing things like that. But back when we started out, you'd run into, one year we ran into a group from a church. I want to say they were from Texas, and they were just pulling their van around and bringing out clothing and putting them up on fences for people to come and take. But that was all that we ran into for the first 5 or 6 years of doing Hope. We rarely ran into anything else until there was a veterans group that would put on a thing for homeless veterans. They took over like a parking lot at a school nearby where we would get together and get ready to go out onto the streets and prepare all of our items and everything. But the problem was they would only help veterans, and even at that, they would only help veterans that were clean. If somebody came up there and they were obviously, had been drinking or doing some drugs or anything, they wouldn't help them at all. And that wasn't our thing. We didn't help people just because we wanted to help those people. We wanted to just help people in general. And there were a lot of good people we met on the streets. A lot of good people. There was a guy named Noah. This is freaking 11 years ago. I met him for like 10, 15 minutes one day 11 years ago, and he still, to this day, sticks in my mind. Was this guy, he's rolling around on rollerblades. He had nothing but his rollerblades, and he wouldn't take any of the food. He wouldn't take any of the stuff that we were giving him. And he's like, he's talking to us, and he said, I'm here because I was stupid. I'm here because I screwed my life up, and I'm trying to get it back. And I want to do it on my terms because it was my fault. And so he was helping us, and super nice guy. Never saw him again after the first event. So I always wondered what happened to him. I hope he got off the streets, and just a good guy. But you met those kind of people, all the time. You met some people that didn't want you there, but a lot of times it was meeting good people. So, yeah, I've kind of rambled on about that. But like I said, that was the only thing that we had going for us right now. I do see that we're coming up on the 1 hour mark, which is as long as I intended to do the program. We've got about 8 minutes left. So once again, my name is Jack, also known as Action Jason. And I am a cosplayer. I am a businessman. I am a graphic designer. I am an artist. I am a maker. You name it. I'm a wrestler, a paranormal investigator, kind of a dork. But yeah, in the future, we will have kind of a general idea of what we're doing per episode. I haven't planned next week's episode yet. I wanted to see if I got any feedback from this episode. But what we will do is I may take a case-by-case basis kind of thing, like do a paranormal night where we talk about a specific paranormal event, or a specific conspiracy theory, or a specific wrestling thing, or just in general on one of those subjects and just talk about it. Maybe talk about UFOs some night. That's kind of the thought I had behind 100% Adventure, was that we would talk about things, and I'd really like to hear from people. Really like to hear questions and sharing ideas and thoughts. That's why we're here in the live streams. So I do intend to have some other programming going on this network. I'm working on a couple of different ideas. I'm thinking of doing a Make It with AJ, which is going to be about making cosplay stuff, making leather stuff, just making maker stuff. And so that might be coming up. But yeah, if you do have any suggestions, feel free to leave them down in the comment section below. I am leaving that open for people to to post in. And yeah, I don't know how I'm going to do this with the planning the time, because when you do it through your YouTube channel, you have to have a streaming key, so it takes you directly to the one that you post, saying I'm going to be on Monday at 9 o'clock Central Time. But for some reason with the StreamYard, which is what I'm using here, it didn't ask me for that. So it just started a whole new scheduled thing. So it doesn't give a schedule and tell people who were subscribing to me. So hopefully that'll change next week. I'm going to look into using a different streaming software. I do have a couple more on this machine here. But this was just a chance to get to know me, and what the show is going to be and what my background is, and to try out the way I've got the studio set up here with the green screen. That's also a work in progress. Yeah, I don't know if you can tell that I don't really know what's going on, but that's the way it is. So anyhow, I hope you enjoyed being in here with me. I enjoyed doing this, and I hope to do more starting next Monday night, 9 p.m. Central, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific time, so that my friends in the Pacific Rim there can join me. I know I recommended my buddy Proteus out in California that I was going to be on at 7 o'clock his time tonight and to join me. And he didn't, as far as I can tell. So I'm calling you out, Proteus. That's right, man. Nah, he's a good guy. Anyhow, so I think we've got a couple minutes left. Again, I'm Jack, also known as Action Jason. And I'm a cosplayer, and I have a lot of interests and a lot of things we can talk about in the future. So please feel free to like and subscribe. Join me again next week at 9 p.m. Central, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, and 7 p.m. Pacific Time, where we will talk about, well, I was thinking about talking about conspiracy theories, and how they actually are a thing, and how you break them apart into logic and illogic. And please show up, ask some questions, share some ideas on what you think of these problems, these topics. That's what it is. It's a topic. So anyhow, again, my name is Jack, and I am going to leave you with about, well, I guess I got 15 seconds left. So I'm just going to stare. No, I'm not. Anyhow, I appreciate it. Everybody have a great evening. Thanks for stopping by, and y'all be good. Peace.